For over 30 years, I dedicated every breath, every hour, and every cent I had to raise my son, Lucas. I wasn't his biological mother. But that didn't matter to me, not when I first held him in my arms, a fragile little boy with sunken eyes and a failing heart. I gave up my dreams, my marriage, and my future just to give him one. And yet, the day I told him I had lost my job, the first thing he did was throw me out like a bag of trash. "You're nothing but a burden now," Lucas said. "I've got a family to take care of, I can't carry you, too." His words didn't just sting. They crushed me. All those sleepless nights, the double shifts. The sacrifices I made just to put food on his plate and keep a roof over his head, they meant nothing to him. It was in that moment I realized I had spent my life giving to someone who never intended to give anything back. I had swallowed my pride for decades. That day, I decided I wouldn't do it anymore. I had just returned to the house, his house, when I told Lucas I wouldn't be working for Elaine anymore. Elaine had been my employer for nearly 15 years. Before I could even explain why I left. His face twisted with anger. "You quit? Are you insane? That was $8,000 a month. What are you going to do now, just freeload off us?" The little happiness I felt from coming back home vanished in an instant. I didn't quit because I was tired. I came back because I thought I could help. His wife, Madison, was planning to get pregnant soon. I figured I'd lend a hand, support her through it. But the way she looked at me when I offered, like I was dirt. "Postpartum care is not a job for amateurs," Madison said, practically spitting the words. "You used to clean houses, right? This isn't something someone like you can handle." Her mother, Cheryl, who happened to be a tenured professor at a prestigious university, chimed in coldly. "Taking care of a newborn isn't babysitting. It requires medical knowledge, emotional training, and responsibility. Let's not pretend you're qualified." They dismissed me like I was nothing more than a janitor trying to join a dinner party. They made it clear I wasn't welcome, not in their house. Not in their lives. But I didn't fight it. I smiled politely and said, "If everything's already handled, I won't get in the way." "Good," Cheryl said without hesitation. "But you'll be covering the cost of the baby nurse and nanny." "I'll handle the hiring." I couldn't even respond. The lump in my throat was too big to swallow. Lucas nodded right along. "Exactly, Mom. You really shouldn't have quit your job. We need your help more than ever. Expenses are piling up." And that's when it hit me. I wasn't family to them, I was income. I was a paycheck they could no longer count on, and my value disappeared the moment the money stopped. I was 58 years old. I had every right to rest. But they didn't see it that way. "Retire?" Madison laughed. "You don't even have a pension." "What are you talking about?" I tried to explain. "Years ago, I wanted to contribute to a retirement plan. But they convinced me to use that money to help pay off their mortgage. That house? I paid for it. Every brick, every beam. But my name was never on the deed." Madison didn't flinch. "Well, that was your bad decision. You should have planned better." Lucas raised his voice. "Enough, Mom." Madison stressed, "She's trying to have a baby. This isn't the time for drama. You're still in good health. You can keep working another 20 years. Save your retirement talk for when you're 80. Another 20 years? I nearly collapsed from the weight of that sentence. All I'd ever wanted was to give him a better life than the one I had. And here I was, being told I needed to work until my body gave out. They didn't want me there for love or support. They wanted me there as a worker bee. Back when Lucas was in college and first dating Madison, I moved across the country to take a live-in housekeeper position. I saved every dollar I could so I could buy them a home. I gave up everything, my home, my friends, my peace, so they could have a future. And they told me back then, "One day, we'll take care of you." Mom. You'll finally get to relax. Now, I knew what they meant. They meant I'd work until I dropped. I took a deep breath and said firmly, I'm retiring. That's final. Madison laughed again. With what money? Cheryl stepped in. Let's be realistic. There's no room for you here. You can't expect to just live with us forever. But I know someone looking for a live-in helper. You've done that before, right? Madison nodded eagerly. Perfect. You'll get room and board, and the money you earn can help with household expenses. That's when I realized they were never planning to support me. They wanted me to keep supporting them. I wasn't a guest, I was a financial mule. No, I said, my voice cold. I've already quit. And I'm not going back to cleaning other people's homes. Cheryl narrowed her eyes. Fine. There's an assisted living facility nearby. You could work in the kitchen or clean rooms. At least that way you're pulling your own weight. Lucas looked me in the eye, trying to sound rational. You always said you wanted to be independent. This is your chance. There's an opening at the senior center, I already called. He actually started dialing the number right in front of me. Tears burned down my cheeks. Lucas. I gave everything I had to raise you. I used up my savings to buy you a home, and now you want to throw me out like trash? He kicked over my suitcase and screamed, that was your choice. If you hadn't divorced Dad, I'd have grown up rich. You owe me. I stared at him, heart-shattering. He didn't even know. I divorced his father so he could have a future. His real father never wanted him. If I had stayed, Lucas might have ended up in foster care or worse. But I never told him. I never told him the truth about his past, how he was born with a heart defect, abandoned in a dumpster, and only lived because I chose him over everything. And now, he was calling me the parasite. As I stood outside their house, no, the house I paid for, dragging my old suitcase down the driveway, I didn't feel broken. Not this time. For years, I had swallowed their insults, masked my fatigue, and offered my time like a bottomless well. But that well had dried up. And I was done pretending otherwise. They thought I was defeated. What they didn't know was that I had a secret, one I had kept tucked away with the same care I once used to cradle Lucas when he was too sick to walk. Elaine. The woman I had worked for these past 15 years, had treated me like family. She had no children of her own, and during those quiet moments when the world wasn't watching, she'd confide in me more than anyone. We shared stories, music, even coffee in the early mornings when neither of us could sleep. Before she passed, she left me a gift, an $8 million trust fund. Legally and entirely mine. I never told Lucas. I had considered it, thought maybe, just maybe, it would bring some pride to his heart. That it would finally make his wife's family respect him. But now I saw the truth, they didn't want my success. They only valued my suffering. They saw me as useful only when I was serving them. That night, I checked into the most expensive 5-star hotel downtown. The room overlooked the river. The sheets smelled of lavender. And for the first time in decades, I exhaled without guilt. The next morning, I called Elaine's private attorney. It's time, I said. Let's begin the property transfer process. I'm ready to move on. Over the next few days, I dove headfirst into the city's luxury housing market. I didn't want a mansion to show off, I wanted peace, privacy, and a reminder that I didn't owe anyone anything anymore. A week later, I scheduled a viewing at one of the city's most prestigious gated villa communities. The kind of place Lucas and Madison used to drive by and say, people like us could never afford that. As I entered the grand lobby of the showroom, a cheerful young woman greeted me. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'd be happy to show you around. Her name was Emily. Fresh-faced, polite, and nervous in the way someone new to the job often is. We had barely taken 5 steps when a sharp voice cut through the air. "Who's doing the client screening today? We just let anyone in now?" I turned. My stomach twisted. It was Rachel. Elaine's niece. She was also Cheryl's goddaughter, and if you think that sounds like a web of elitist drama, you're absolutely right. We'd met only once before, briefly, at a community fundraiser. She'd made it abundantly clear she thought I didn't belong among people of quality. "Margaret?" Rachel's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here? This isn't a job fair." "I'm here to view properties," I said calmly. "Is there a problem?" She laughed, condescending and loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. "You think you can afford anything here? Don't tell me you're here for the free snacks." People started to stare. The whispers came like a swarm of wasps, quiet but sharp. Emily, trying to salvage the moment, said, "I can assist her, Rachel. I'm available." But Rachel waved her off and barked at 2 security guards. "Escort this woman out." I didn't flinch. "Touch me, and I'll sue this entire establishment for discrimination. I've done nothing wrong. Show me your manager." The showroom fell silent. Just then, a man in a tailored white shirt appeared. "Good afternoon," he said warmly. "I'm Brandon, the sales manager. Is there a concern?" Rachel jumped in. "She doesn't belong here, Brandon. She's wasting our time." Brandon turned to me. "Do you have any financial documents, ma'am? It's policy for private viewings." I reached into my bag, handed him a folder, and pulled out my phone. "That's my verified statement. And here," I tapped the screen. "Over $8.3 million. Want to see more?" Gasps echoed. Rachel's mouth fell open. The silence was deafening. Emily blinked. "Ma'am, that's more than enough." Brandon cleared his throat and smiled, suddenly 10 shades more polite. "Of course. We'd be honored to assist. Would you like to proceed with a viewing?" I nodded. "Yes. And I'd like Emily to assist me." Rachel tried to protest, but Brandon shut her down. "Emily's our newest, but if that's the client's request, we respect it." Emily glowed with pride, and Rachel? She stood stiff as a mannequin. We toured several stunning properties, but one stood out. High ceilings, a garden bathed in sun, a studio space perfect for painting or music. Peaceful. Serene. "I'll take it," I said. Emily gasped. "Ma'am, this will be my first closed sale." "Then let's make it a day to remember." And just like that, I signed for a $1.5 million home, without blinking. Then I leaned toward Brandon and said, "Actually, I'll take another. As an investment. Please make the arrangements." Rachel choked on her own disbelief. Her humiliation should have made me gloat. But I didn't. I simply smiled and walked away. They thought I was a nobody. A washed-up maid. A burden. But the only burden I was shedding was them. Not long after I settled into my new home. A quiet, high-end villa nestled among manicured trees and private walking paths, the phone rang. I didn't even need to check the caller ID. I already knew. Lucas. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Then again. And then, the concierge at the front gate buzzed me. "Miss Holloway, someone left a large flower bouquet for you." I sighed, dragged it inside. And found the note buried between the roses, "Wishing you a lovely weekend. Love, your son, Lucas." I snapped a photo of the bouquet sitting in my trash can, card and all. And sent it to the concierge. "Please refuse anything sent by this person from now on." I wasn't playing his games. I wasn't letting guilt claw its way back into my chest. I had spent 30 years raising a man who didn't even blink before throwing me away. I owed him nothing. But Lucas didn't stop. For 2 weeks, he lurked outside the gates of my community. rain or shine. Weekday or weekend, he stood on the sidewalk like some rejected actor in a soap opera. One day, he even dropped to his knees in front of my car, sobbing and pleading, "Mom, please. I'm sorry. Don't abandon me." I didn't speak. I didn't even lower the window. Eventually, I hired a full-time driver and entered through the underground garage. I never gave him eye contact again. That's when he changed tactics. Lucas contacted my ex-husband, Richard, the man who once demanded I return Lucas to the orphanage or raise him alone. The man who chose biology over love. Out of the blue, Richard called me. "Just thought you should know," he said, voice awkward. Lucas showed up at my office. Caused a scene. He insisted I was still his father. I told him the truth, I never was, never claimed to be. Richard hadn't told Lucas the full story, though. He'd left out the fact that Lucas had been abandoned at birth and found in a dumpster. I had adopted him when he was barely a year old, heart failing, skin gray from illness. It wasn't long after that phone call that I noticed something odd. Neighbors looked at me differently. Their greetings felt off. Stiff. Hesitant. Then came the call from Emily, the sweet young realtor I had chosen to buy my villa through. "Miss Holloway," she said carefully. "I just wanted to say I believe in you. No matter what people are saying online." Online? She sent me a link. Lucas had launched a livestream channel called "How My Mother Abandoned Me." I clicked. My jaw tightened as I watched him, sitting in some dimly lit room, wiping fake tears from his cheeks. "My mother left me the year I got into college," he said. "She moved away to serve rich men instead of supporting me. And now that she's wealthy, she's cut me off. She won't even say my name." Comments poured in. "Poor guy, he just wants love. What kind of mom does that? She sounds heartless." Some even donated money. He was selling merchandise, hoodies that said "abandoned but strong." I nearly laughed. The performance was so unhinged it was almost impressive. My lawyer was furious. "We can file immediately for defamation and harassment," he said. "We'll get everything removed." But I stopped him. "No," I said. "Let him perform. I have my own show to run." That night, I created my own livestream account and titled it, "So This Is the Mom Who Abandoned Lucas." First, I dropped a $5,000 donation into Lucas's stream. The chat went wild. Then I sent a message that flashed across his screen. "Hey everyone. I'm the so-called heartless mom. Come to my stream. Tonight. I'm giving away $100,000. I'll also show you the truth." Viewers flooded my channel instantly. I began calmly, no theatrics. Yes, I cut Lucas off financially. But not because I stopped loving him. Because his greed became unbearable. Because he and his wife threw me out like trash after I supported them for decades. I shared images of documents, hospital bills from his childhood, receipts for college tuition, even mortgage payments for the house they now lived in. I bought them their home. They didn't pay a cent. When I lost my job, they said I was useless. When I offered to help with the baby, they mocked me. Then I dropped the bomb, a recording. Lucas, on a call with Cheryl's friend, trying to get me placed as a live-in assistant for an elderly man. I had obtained the footage legally from the man's household staff. "She doesn't need rest," Lucas had said in the recording. "She needs to earn her keep." The comment section exploded. "This is abuse. He used her like a wallet and tossed her. This is what weaponized guilt looks like." Then came the moment of complete silence, when I showed the adoption certificate. I took him in when he was found abandoned in a dumpster. I raised him alone after my husband walked out. I gave him everything. And now he claims I ruined his life? Back on his stream. Lucas panicked. So what if I wasn't her real kid? She never had to save me. That was it. The audience turned on him. Sponsors pulled out. His account was permanently banned. My lawyer filed the suit. We won. Lucas had to pay damages and court fees. He was barred from making any public statements about me ever again. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post a victory video. I just closed the app and sat back in silence. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be heard. 6 months after the defamation case closed, my life had settled into something I had never truly known before: quiet. Peaceful. Mine. With the legal proceedings finalized, I reclaimed the property I had once bought for Lucas and Madison, the very house I was kicked out of. My attorney had uncovered an ironclad paper trail of payment receipts, tax records, and maintenance costs that pointed solely to me. The court ruled in my favor. The title was legally transferred back to my name. On the day I stepped back into that house, the walls looked the same, but the air felt different. It no longer smelled of guilt or grief. It smelled like closure. Shortly after, Madison filed for divorce. She signed the papers at her lawyer's office without drama. Without tears. She didn't fight. She simply walked away from Lucas like someone finally recognizing dead weight. I didn't blame her. Being married to a man who could betray his own mother like that must have revealed everything she needed to know. Lucas didn't contact me again. I didn't know where he went. And I didn't care to ask. But the universe has a funny way of bringing things back around. One afternoon, while catching up with an old friend at a quiet cafe near the lake, she leaned in and said, "You know, I heard Lucas moved to Canada. My niece saw something about him online. Out of curiosity, I searched his name. The video footage hit me like a whisper rather than a scream. Lucas, disheveled, hunched over, mumbling to himself, sat by a trash bin in a cold alley. His eyes were distant, glassy. One hand clutched a piece of moldy bread. He smiled to no one. Then seconds later, broke into a sob so fierce it racked his whole body. He wasn't just lost. He was unwell. He had become exactly what he feared: discarded, misunderstood, and alone. But surprisingly, I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel vengeance either. I felt nothing. He was the sum of his own choices. And finally, he had to carry their weight. As for me, I sold the 2 villas I'd bought during that storm of betrayal. The housing market was peaking, and I walked away with a generous profit. What once represented rage and rebellion had now become a financial springboard into something softer. I moved to a quiet lakeside town outside the city. It wasn't the most luxurious place. But for the first time in my life, I didn't need luxury. I needed peace. My mornings began with sunlight pouring through open windows. My small garden bloomed with roses and wisteria. The kitchen always smelled of dark roast coffee. On lazy afternoons, I sat under the shade of trees and painted. I played piano again, something I hadn't done since Elaine passed. Her spirit lingered there, in every soft note, every patient brushstroke. There were no more knocks at the door from people who only wanted money. No more manipulative smiles. No more guilt. No one called me mom just to demand something. No one claimed I was being selfish for resting. In that quiet, I found myself. Sometimes people ask me if I regret adopting Lucas. Years ago, I would have struggled to answer. I would have agonized over it, picked it apart, relived every painful moment. But now? I simply smile and say, no. I don't regret raising him. Then I pause. I only regret not realizing sooner that love shouldn't require the destruction of yourself. That kindness must have boundaries. That giving your all doesn't mean giving away your soul. In the second half of my life, I learned the most powerful lesson of all. I was never just a housekeeper. I was never just a mother. I was never just someone's safety net. I was a woman who finally chose herself. And you know what? It wasn't too late after all.